Okay.
We are live. You are on camera right now.
Hi. Happy New Year. Welcome to Batch Cook Live. I am Sarah, and today we are making Bolognese. So there's a million. Huh?
Just like talk. Just give people more time to show up because it's not.
Oh. My partner Seth is behind the scenes, and he's saying just to slow it down. Well, then I will tell you, there's a billion ways to make Bolognese. So I am not an Italian chef, and I am not an Italian grandma, which I know is surprising. But you know, this is one way that you can do it, and one of the ways that you can start Bolognese, we gotta get this working, is like doing pancetta. It's pretty common, which I'm not gonna do. But I am gonna use bacon fat to sort of sneak in some of that flavor. So if you're a person who holds all your bacon fat, which I highly recommend, you know, you can put bacon fat in here, and then you get a little bit of that, you know, porky flavor. Do you love that? Without, you know, having to use pancetta. But if you do not save bacon fat, that's fine. And you could use olive oil, you could use like canola or vegetable oil, and you know, you can honestly even just use butter, or maybe part butter, part oil would be better. All right, this thing is cranking, so that's one thing. We'll adjust. All right, so my fat is melted, and I'm gonna put in onion, carrot, and celery, or onion, celery, and carrot. And they're all going in at the same time. I just wanted you to see roughly how much was going in here. We really want to sweat this so that sizzling is not perfect. Doesn't need to get so brown. I'll turn that down when I'm done with this. So you can chop your vegetables, obviously by hand, but if you have like a little mini food processor, it's a great one to use on this because, you know, you got a pretty decent volume of vegetables, but mainly you're also cooking this to flavor the sauce. And, you know, even if you chop it, it'll sort of disappear into the matrix of your sauce, but it's particularly nice to go ahead and make it super tiny. Okay, as I said, we're going for more of a sweat than a brown, so a loud sizzle is not exactly what you're looking for. But we're just gonna get this going until it's starting to soften. You know, Bolognese, it takes a long time, so even if they aren't perfectly soft, they'll get there by the end. I did list the ingredients this time. They're in the comments or like in the description of the video. So, you know, I might go back and adjust because I'm just making this up as I go from like how I would do it. But like for a rough idea of things, you can take a look there and see what I'm working with. And I should mention that you can comment and ask questions if you have questions about what I'm doing. And we have a phone number and a text. Is that?
Yeah.
Partner Seth? Okay. Yeah. My production arm will be manning the comments. All right, so a lot of times when you're sweating, I'm gonna put a little bit of salt in there to draw out the liquid. I think I'm gonna skip this right now. Partially, I did such a fine dice with the food processor. They're working pretty well, and this sauce is a meat sauce. I am using tomatoes, but some don't. They might use tomato paste and broth, but it's gonna reduce a lot, and so you wanna be careful about your salt. I am gonna add some when I add the meat, because I always feel like I don't know, it's a little crazy, but you know, general rule, when you're sweating vegetables, a little salt will help draw out the moisture and it'll help get it soft. We're just gonna give this a few minutes. So the next step is gonna be, well, I'm actually gonna put in some garlic. You don't wanna burn that, so we're gonna put that in just before I put in meat. The next step is gonna be meat. Always beautiful to show raw meat on camera. So I've got a pound of ground beef, and this is actually a pound of meatloaf mix. So it's like meatloaf and meatballs, and it is a blend of beef, pork, and veal. And all of those have different levels of like tenderness and flavor and gelatin. There's a lot going on in there, so it makes it really tender. And you want this sauce to be, you know, very silky at the end. And so I find that some blend works great just so that you don't end up with like, You can have you want fat in your sauce because you want it to be unctuous, so there's just a straight up pound of ground beef. But sometimes it's nice to have these other meats in there. But you could also use Italian sausage and beef, or meatloaf mix, or Italian sausage and pork. If you're trying to not eat meat, or you just want to try something different, mushroom bolognese is great. So like after you do your vegetables in the food processor, just throw like a bonja mushroom in there. Puree that, and then you can cook that down, add it where you would add the meat, and it's delicious because mushrooms are so savory, and they retain some structure but get really soft, so it sort of functions like ground beef. I've had it, it's delicious. I've never done lentils, but I know that people do that. They'll use lentil instead of meat, and so that could be really interesting. All right, this is looking pretty lovely. That heat was up. It'd probably take you a little bit longer if you do this, but that heat was cranking on this little burner. So I'm happy with the way that looks. So we're gonna put in, this is 2 cloves of garlic that I just minced. I didn't put it at the beginning because if you are messing around with your heat, I'm gonna put this over here, you don't want it to burn. So we'll get a lot of really good flavor that way. And then we're gonna add our meat. This is looking a little dry, like this mix has soaked up all this fat, which is great, it's gonna taste great. If this beef doesn't like bring it back, I can always add a little bit more fat. This seemed like it was gonna be a nicer way to throw a hunk of raw meat into a pan, but maybe not. All right, so, all right, the best part, oh wait, I brought this over to, just cranking away. All right. So the whole thing about this show is I'm batch cooking. So this is 2 pounds of meat. It's gonna make a lot of sauce. I have mentioned previously, it is just my partner and I, so it's just 2 people. This will last a long time for us. But it's good if you have like a larger group. A couple pounds of meat is a decent amount of sauce. But this stuff freezes so beautifully so that if we do get tired of it, just throw some in the freezer and then have like, a small portion for later, which is awesome. Right, so this is what I was saying, where I feel like, I don't know this. I've never done like a batch where I did and a batch where I didn't, but I always feel like I'm gonna know that this meat just didn't have any seasoning from the jump. So I'm putting a little bit of salt in there. But again, you're gonna put all this liquid in and then reduce it, and whenever you're reducing, it's gonna become more salty. So you don't wanna go overboard, but I want my like meat flavored meat in there. All right. So, we're just breaking this up, and then you can actually see that like as I turn it, there's like bits down there that are already getting brown, which is great. And I'm sort of incorporating the veg as well, and it just becomes this beautiful matrix that when you're eating it, you're not feeling like it's, multiple components. All right. It really just goes on like this. Everything I've made. In fact, I think next week we're gonna do chili, and it's gonna be just chopping ground beef, which, maybe you should think about how fun that does look when you're on camera. All right, so this is looking nice in terms of fat. I don't know if that's gonna read on camera. Did you go to overhead? Okay. I don't know if you can, but you can tell, so the ground beef is not like a lean one, and it's looking really nice to me, so I'm not gonna add any more bacon fat, but if it was looking particularly dry, you can easily just push things aside, put a little fat in there, and, get things cooking again. All right. Well, this smells good. All right, we got a little bit of pinkness. I'm gonna get this a little bit more brown, And then we're gonna start layering a bunch of flavor. So this, which is already, you know, onion and carrot, celery, and garlic all already have flavor. So you're off to a good start, but you can get some more depth by using your heat to, this whole sauce is about reduction, basically. So that's looking pretty.
Unctuous?
What's that?
Daddy says unctuous?
Oh, because I said you wanted fat to make it unctuous?
I guess so.
Oh, Seth is saying that there's a comment about unctuous, and yes, I was saying you want, I have one leaner blend of meat and then one.
What is unctuous?
Unctuous is like a rich, fatty, silky feel, like, yeah, that is the right word, but yeah, like a rich and fatty, silky feel, as I think is as good as I can get on that. But yeah, that's why you want some of this beef fat in there.
Can I say unctuous equals good?
Yeah, yes, Seth is saying unctuous equals good. Maybe we should put a mic on you,
Oh, yeah.
you know? Anywho, all right, so next step, we are going to add wine. So this is a cup. I think it's gonna be what I need. I am adding, oh really? Well, now it looks terrible. So now I've added this wine, now that my meat has browned, and we're gonna reduce this wine. So that was a dry red wine. It could totally be white. So if all you have is white, just as long as it's not a sweet wine, because that's only gonna get sweeter as you reduce it and it's gonna add weird notes to your sauce. But if you have white and it's dry, do it, you know, that's totally fine. Maybe not something like super oaky, like a Chardonnay or whatever, but a dry white wine and dry red. And so this, maybe I will crank this up so that it won't take so long. It looks so attractive. But what we're gonna do is just cook this until the wine is just gone, like basically gone, because we're not trying to make it taste like alcohol. We want it to taste like reduced wine, which is gonna bring so much flavor to it. Yeah, I don't wanna, I'm sort of piling it up on the side because I don't wanna boil my meat. I don't wanna stand here all day. Bolognese is like easy to get going, and then you gotta simmer it for a while. So this, when we wrap up here, I'm just gonna like sort of partially put my lid on and walk away and let it simmer. So this stage, well, we're cooking out wine. I just don't want it to take too long. And then we're gonna trust that you know how to make some pasta. So that's not happening here either. It's just the start of a sauce to get you going. But if it's cold, oh, you're gonna be so happy with this. Oh man. But yeah, so this is just one way. I mean, there's basically always wine, like meat, wine, generally broth as well, and then dairy of some sort. Oh, I need a bigger pot.
What if you don't want to cook with alcohol?
Okay, asking if I don't want to cook with alcohol. If you don't want to cook with alcohol, honestly, you can just leave it out. You can, generally speaking, replace alcohol with like a half and half mixture-ish to your palate of an unsalted broth and a vinegar. And usually, I mean, if you're truly paranoid about it, maybe not red wine vinegar, and you could use balsamic. Maybe go a little lighter on that. I wouldn't say a white vinegar, maybe not apple cider, but if you are fine with like the fact that there's wine flavored vinegars that have some of those same notes, then you could mix broth and vinegar and use that, but that would like take longer to cook off and you would get such a vinegary flavor that I don't think it's the right thing here. So you could either, I guess you could try some verjus, which is just a like a strong grape juice, I guess is a good way to put that. But this is so not, this is so high.
Should that
I would say just leave it out. Like, just skip the wine. And then, you know, you can just add some, maybe a little bit of vinegar at the end if you wanted to have like a little bit of acidity in there. Yeah, this should be slower simmering. I'm kind of rushing this.
I'm gonna cut to the outside view so they can see our weather.
Oh, he's going to snow cam? I think it's snowing. I can't see. We're controlling the light in here, so I had the curtain down. But anyway, yeah, it's snowing here. This is why it's going to be so good to have this like good hearty meat sauce. All right, I still smell some stuff.
Could you use cheap wine here, or is drinkable wine a must?
I mean, if you ask anybody who's cooking, they're gonna say cheap. Yes, like there are good $12, $8 wines. You can use cheap wine. Like you don't need to use a $50 bottle of wine here. Cheap is one thing, but like drinkable being part of the question, definitely use something you would drink. You're only intensifying it. So if you don't like it, you know, then you're not going to want to eat it. But yeah, there's a lot of affordable wines. That's a different question altogether. Okay, we're getting there. And that's smelling like meat and not wine, which is what we want.
Somebody wants to know, why wouldn't you want to cook with alcohol?
Why wouldn't you want to cook without? Well, I mean, some people, like if you are not drinking, like you're either, maybe it's dry January, so you could just be doing temporary. Maybe you don't drink if you are pregnant, in recovery, have an alcohol allergy. There's a ton of reasons that people wouldn't want to cook with alcohol. So any of those is totally valid. And, you know, it won't break this dish. You know, it is great if you can because you're cooking it off. So if you're somebody who isn't drinking and you're fine with the fact that the alcohol will be cooked off, then you could do this. But if you really don't want it or you just aren't having it in the house, you know, you can just skip it. All right, this is looking nice. So we're gonna do yet more reduction. Okay, so next up is milk. So we're doing a cup of milk. Are you getting that?
I'm getting that.
It's also just as beautiful. All right, so.
Why do you want to cook the meat slowly versus over high heat? Is it cooked?
Well, yes, but you know, if you're boiling it too much, you can make your meat tough, and that's not what I want to do. This sauce, you want it to be so tender. And that is part of the reason that people put milk in, but we already browned our meat, so the milk isn't doing that. But yeah, cooked is cooked. It's already browned, and I don't think this is going to be untender. It's got plenty of like fat, and I can tell from the feel that it's not like dry or anything. But you know, if you aren't trying to like whip through it, you know, take your time. But yeah, like you don't want to boil this ground beef and then just have it be like a tough stringy mess. So I'm going for more of a simmer. All right, so now we've got a cup of milk in here. So this is not kosher, but
Dairy and wine.
yeah, no, it sounds terrible and it seems weird to do, you know, dairy in a meat sauce, but it's very classic and it does make the sauce incredibly rich. And we're gonna cook this down too, so that it's not, you know, it's not gonna be a milk sauce, but it will have all this protein and sugar cooked in. If you just simmer your meat, some recipes, again, there are a million ways to do this, and I would love to hear about anybody else's style. You know, some people I've seen, they just stir a little bit of heavy cream in at the end, which is one way you can go. Some people will simmer their meat in the dairy and then cook off the wine later. Like there's a billion ways to do it, but like since we already browned it, it's like it's just gonna enrich this sauce, but it will make it's a lot richer. You know, you get like sort of emulsification from all this stuff going in, getting cooked down. All right, while that cooks down, We are gonna add the other classic ingredient. I don't know if you're still overhead, Seth.
Hold on a second.
He's typing. I think he's answering email. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm gonna do this.
All right, cheese, cheese.
I am adding. Did we catch all that?
Yep.
It's a little bit of ground nutmeg. So like this is a nutmeg and you can see it's flat because it's like it's been used and it's a little goes a long way and one of these lasts forever. Another surprising but classic ingredient. Oh, that's nice. I actually always wait to add pepper, black pepper, until I've added the nutmeg because it adds a little, seasoning to it. It's kind of like a bechamel where it's very, it's just like such a fragrant, warming thing. All right, so now we might want to come over here if you're not.
Go away from overhead.
Yeah. So while we wait for our dairy to cook down, we're reducing more. So we're just keep intensifying a bunch of layers of flavor. So some people might just do tomato paste at the beginning. You'd cook that and later we're gonna add some broth. So this is gonna be like a big sauce and I will turn it down before we're done with all of this. But I am gonna use tomatoes. So this is a can of whole tomatoes and I'm just gonna break them up with my hand. So you can use crushed tomatoes, but like these have a lot of good seeds and.
This is wow, I've never seen a whole nutmeg.
Oh yeah, I should have brought I have like a container of them. Yeah, now I guess if you wanna, I don't know if that reads, but like, they last forever. And so I might have ground nutmeg in my spice pantry, but I almost never use it. Anytime I'm using stuff, like if I'm doing a, cream spinach or a bechamel or whatever, and I'm using nutmeg, I just always use fresh because they last so long.
Could you use almond milk instead of regular milk?
You absolutely can use another milk. All right, this is my fancy towel that I knew was gonna need for this tomato biz. I was thinking about that because there's so many swaps. Like the thing that, like the list of ingredients I have is like, here's like a guide. But the thing about, I guess, when you're comfortable cooking, is like you start to feel like, okay, I know what this function is doing. And the dairy will make the dish richer. I feel like you should include it. And I was thinking about almond milk, which would be okay. But I wonder if you don't use dairy, if maybe oat milk would be better. Because it's a little starchy, you're gonna get that, that texture you want. And it won't, I think, end up as sweet as almond milk could be. But if almond milk is what you have, then go for it. And if you like that flavor, you might not really notice in your sauce. And soy might be okay. I can't remember how sweet soy milk is. I used to drink that, but like, I haven't in a while. Okay, this is looking so lovely. So I'm gonna put in all these tomatoes. That was a 28-ounce can, it's like one of the big ones. And you don't have to use whole tomatoes and crush it. I like it. It gives a lot of like texture to the sauce. I'm gonna put this over here. But you could absolutely use crushed or even diced tomatoes. Okay, so we're putting this in. And the last thing, so you can see there's some of that fat still there, which is great. And as it simmers later, you want that fat to like rise up to the top and you can like stir it back in or you can take some off if it's like a lot. So now we have a little bit of acid. We've got some tomatoey flavor. I want to point out that this is like a ragu. It is a meat sauce. So it's not, if you are using like ground beef and pouring a jar of marinara in there and your family is fed, do it up. But this one is not supposed to be just like ripping tomatoes because it's not marinara. So I am going to add, maybe 3/4 cup. You might want more or less. That was a cup and a half there, so I added about, nailed it. That's what you get when you measure things a lot. We're gonna see how that looks.
What did you just add?
Sorry, that was turkey stock that I made after Thanksgiving. I'm so proud because look how pretty. It's so pretty.
Why can I not go back?
Oh, well, just like, or whichever. I was very proud of my turkey stock. It turned out great. But, oh, I can be Ina. Like, if you don't have homemade, store-bought is fine. I don't know if anybody watches that in a garden, but that's her catchphrase. So, yeah, but truly, just some broth. This, again, if you are doing olive oil and mushrooms and, like, you know, an almond milk, then use vegetable stock. You have, like, a totally vegan sauce. There's easy ways. I'm going to add a little bit more, so that's fun. I said a cup in my directions, and I think I'm going to stick with a cup. All right, so here's where we are. And again, I have not done much seasoning. I did bring a spoon out so I could taste the.
What are some
Did I? Oh, here's.
other meats you could use?
Oh, that's pretty tasty. Okay, and so other meats you could use is the question. Lamb bolognese is fantastic. If you eat meat and you want to do something different, ground lamb, you can get it at the store and it's so good. Because it's just like a little bit funky and it makes the sauce just so rich. Obviously beef. I definitely think like you can put ground pancetta or like finely chopped pancetta in there. Again, I think maybe a sweet Italian sausage. Again, you're gonna like reduce it. So if it's spicy and it gets spicier, you might feel like it's. I don't think of bolognese as a spicy food, which is funny because I love everything spicy. But yeah, an Italian sausage, and then like you could do turkey if you're looking for meat but lean. You can absolutely do turkey. I think turkey and pork would be nice because then you would have some layers of flavor. If you're doing a blend. All right, this is arbitrary. You can wait and see if you want some herb. You can leave it out and just have your garlic and nutmeg. I happen to have fresh oregano from something else. I don't usually, but I do, so I'm just gonna put that in there. I'm gonna see where that gets me, and if I wanna chop some up later, I will add it, but you can also add some Italian seasoning, or you could, some people put thyme in, which I think would be delicious. Basil, I don't know why, it's so classically Italian, and for some reason that just tips me so hard marinara that I'm always like, I don't know, I wouldn't put that in there. But oregano is like, it's a hearty one. I think it's good. You can put some bay leaf in here. But
Sarah says, I have a giant mystery squash that grew in my parents' garden that I need to use. Could I cook it with the meat in the sauce?
Yes, grind it. It's actually kind of like the.
Grind what? You have to name it.
Oh, somebody asked, I forget that you cannot hear the lovely Seth, the Gelman behind the camera. Somebody asked they had to have a squash, like just a squash that they need to use up, and can they add it with the meat? And like absolutely. In fact, you could even put it in with the vegetables. But I would say, finely dice it. It should disappear into the sauce as well. And if you have a food processor, so you're processing everything, just grind it up. And if it's a vegetable that gets soft, it's going to just become part of the matrix of your sauce. And yeah, that's one of the things I like about this. Is like, I do not personally have to sneak vegetables in anything. I love vegetables. Seth loves vegetables. So we're fine there. But there is, carrot, celery, and onion in here. And, it's so flavorful, but you can sneak whatever you want in there.
Did you already talk about a mushroom version, the one that's solely mushroom?
I did talk about a mushroom version, which is delicious. I was saying for swaps, mushroom bolognese is, or ragu, I guess it's not really bolognese, but.
What kind of mushroom would you use?
You could use any, I guess don't use a super expensive one. That seems like a waste. But I would use cremini. It's what I have done. I've made it a few times, but I've always used cremini. Obviously, if you can't find cremini, portobellas are just larger cremini. Use those. But button mushrooms are easy to find, and they're delicious. So the white ones, you can absolutely use. Like I said, I think those exotic mushroom blends that you find, they're beautiful, but it seems like kind of a waste to grind that up into a sauce. But yeah, just every time I've done mushroom bolognese, either finely chop your mushrooms or throw them in the food processor and add them when you would add the meat. I usually do sweat the vegetables first and then add then add the ground mushroom, and then you just treat it the same. Like if you're gonna use wine, use wine. Dairy, if you're using it. If not, you know, you got your oat milk or you got soy or almond. So actually, this is the stage at which we are just going to simmer this for a long time. So I am going to partially cover my pot. I know that's not as exciting now. And just let this go, I mean, at least an hour, possibly more. And you just want it to be thick and rich. And like, then you're going to jump in with some additional seasoning once it's reduced, because like, again, if you put a bunch of salt in and reduce it, it'll get really salty. So I'll come back later and check on that. And if it starts to get dry and I feel like I want it to be a little loose or whatever, I can always add a splash more stock or water. But yeah, that all mushroom version is so good. And like I said, I haven't tried lentils, but a lentil ragu, I've seen people do it. And, you know, you can always do the, like there's a blended burger trend where you're like replace some of your meat with mushroom. You could always do, if you're doing a 2-pound batch, which is what this is, it makes a lot of sauce. You can always do beef and then the other half is mushroom. So any place, any like blend of that is gonna be delicious. Well, is there anything else?
No, I think that's it. Just so the things are the people should subscribe to our channel.
Oh yes, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back next Sunday and we're gonna do chili with poblano and hominy.
The calendar's going up on the screen, right?
Oh, Seth said he's putting the calendar on the screen right now, so you can see what we have coming up. That's just for January. More chopping meat in a pan. But then we break out of that. We've got like quiche and stuff down there. So yeah, subscribe. And then again, you know how to cook pasta, you know how to simmer sauce. So I've gotten you as far as you need to go. And now you can make this and then you can just, honestly, you can just walk away. Just walk away for a while. Come back and stir it every 20 minutes. What's that?
Can we see it again?
One more time.
Yeah, just so you can see like what was important. How long are they going to simmer this?
I mean, I'm going to give this at least an hour, but I will come back in 20 minutes and check it. I mean, I'm probably gonna transfer this to my stove, let's be honest. Try to get that a little bit more similarly, but that's like a decent little bubble there. And you know, you can see all this liquid, that's gonna cook down. It's gonna get really intense, which is great. There's gonna be fat on top of your sauce if you're using meat.
Are you gonna pull those herbs out? You should leave them there.
I'll pluck those out just so that I don't like
Pluck
have it, huh?
Pluck what?
Oh, I'm gonna pluck out, sorry, we gotta mic you, man. You're part of this now. I am gonna pull out the oregano. I will just pluck that out at the end. I'll probably be tasting the sauce as I go. So if I feel like, oh, this is as herbaceous as I want it, because like it's kind of strong, it's fresh, whatever. Maybe I'll pull it out sooner, but if not, I'll just pull it out because I don't want to be eating pasta and get like a strand of oregano. But if I pull it out and it's not enough, I actually have a little bit more. I would chop some of that in, just fold it in at the end. You know, if you're using a dried herb, that's pretty intense. So like, you know, depending on how much you put in. So like you can stir that in too. But yeah, I will pull that out. And if you put bay leaf in, always take that out. It's very unpleasant to bite it too. It's just one of those like sharp, weird feelings.
What's the difference between Bolognese, ragu, and marinara?
Okay, so the question is, what's the difference between Bolognese, ragu, and marinara? Well, I'll start with the easy. Marinara is just like a tomato sauce. It's really bright. You're like featuring that fruit / everybody thinks vegetable, whatever. It is often, you can put onion in or you can not. Some people put garlic in or not. Generally, it has basil in it, but you know, it is a tomato sauce that is meant to feature it. Bolognese is a meat sauce, and actually, so here's where I will not speak out of school, because when I don't know something, I will be totally honest. There's a lot I do not know. Technically, this would be called ragu bolognese. So it is a meat sauce, and I don't know how ragu, that is other things, would differ in any way. So I'm just gonna say marinara tomato sauce, bolognese meat sauce. Like this is very heavily meat, especially if you just did like stock and tomato paste. Like you can just do a lot less tomato. I put a can, but I mean, it is not overwhelmingly tomatoey. It'll be very rich and brown when it's done. But that's the difference. So,
Wait,
but I don't know about, I don't know.
Does that have to do with the dairy? Did you mention that? I'm sorry, I was reading something.
Does bolognese or ragu?
No, yeah, is it bolognese because it has the milk in it?
Oh, I just thought it was the meat. I don't know. I mean, it does have dairy, but.
You always have to repeat my question.
Oh, he's asking me questions about bolognese, and the answer is, I don't know. I know what I've said, and that's all I've got. It's the meat sauce. It's got dairy in it.
This show is a lot of fun.
Oh, well, somebody said this show is a lot of fun, which that's just told me, thank you. That's great. It's fun for me, too. It's easy to just make what I want to cook and just, it's a funny thing, like cooking shows, usually there would be like, and here it is. And I'm like, you know what? You know how to put a lid on a pot and make spaghetti. You're fine. Every Sunday at 3. And so, yeah, subscribe, come back. Thanks for watching.
All right.
I don't know if it's a